Hi, my name's Shaun. I run a small print shop out of my garage in Chico, California called Hotbox Print Studio. And this video is in response to a user named Norway Black Metal. He was asking how I print my films. And I'm going to do my best to answer that question. So in Illustrator, you need to do the following. So I'm going to open up a film that I already printed before. And the first thing that I recommend you do is assure that output all blacks as rich black is selected under the appearance of black in your settings. So you can Command K and bring up your preferences, and under appearance of black, which is like the bottom of the list, there is printing and exporting here, and it says output all blacks as rich black. You want to make sure that is checked. I can't vouch for how much of a big difference that particularly makes, but I understand that it does attempt to help your printer output a richer black. So, I mean, we're just taking all the safeguards into account that we can to assure that we're doing everything we possibly can with the bare bones minimal gear that we have. I do not have a continuous ink system. I don't have all black ink cartridges. I do not run RIP software. I'm literally using the cheapest small format Epson Artisan 50 inkjet printer that I possibly could afford. And it only goes 8.5 by 11, and but it's a Epson, you know, and it's kind of the industry standard, so to speak. So I knew I could trust it, and it's been a good printer. But even though it's limiting because of the size it can output, it is capable. So it's just a matter of settings. So once we do our output all blacks as rich black, we need to move on to our artwork. So my artwork right now, it looks black, but if you look up here in this area in my color palette, in CMYK, I actually have not just the K slider slided all the way up to 100%, but I have all my sliders to 100%. Now, I want to give John from Catspit credit for this one. I learned this from him, and I think it does help. Again, I can't 100% vouch it makes much of a difference, but these are the things I'm doing, and I'm getting opaque film. So, with that said, what I like to do when I make this color, which is technically still black, but you're pushing all your other... Okay, so let me, I'm rambling here. Let me give you some backstory for why we're doing this. The idea is that you want to force your printer to utilize all of its ink cartridges. And so if you only have your black slider slid up and then your other ink cartridges are being ignored, you're not telling your printer to use the other colors as much, even though your printer still will technically produce ink from some of the other cartridges. You're going to make it produce a little bit more ultimately if you push all your sliders up. So that's the whole theory or the mind state behind pushing all the sliders up. With that said, to make things easy, what I recommend doing is making a template in Illustrator for your films. You should always have one if you're a screen printer, really. But when you do that, also, I recommend making your own custom spot color, and I name mine 100% CMYK black, and all that is a copy of what I just showed you guys. So it's all CMYK pushed to 100%, and it's saved as a spot color. That way I can just, hover. So if this is red for some reason or whatever, orange, okay, and we're like, still building our artwork and we haven't moved into actually printing films, when you get to that stage and you need to change the color to black, highlight your artwork and then find your little spot color you made. That's 100% CMYK black. Click that, and now we are 100% on all cartridges, and then we're ready to go. So the next step would be here's a precursor to what we're going to do. Most people, I think, actually print from Illustrator. I don't, and the reason for that is because in my experience, and I can't vouch for why, in my experience, printing from Adobe Illustrator does not render as opaque films as what I'm about to show you I do instead. So for whatever reason, I don't know if it's something I'm missing in the print dialog, but I've trial and errored this a ton, and I have never figured it out. So again, like, I'm not an expert. This is just what I've figured out that works for me. But so what I do instead is I output to a PDF, and then I print my PDF from Mac OS X's native software called Preview. So what we're going to do is export this to a PDF. So we're going to make a copy so that we don't overwrite this. I'll just call it, or I'll actually erase copy, and we'll just save it to the desktop. And we're going to make sure we select PDF. Whoops. Adobe PDF, not SVG. And then this would be the next step that I would advise doing, but you don't have to do this. I made my own preset in the PDF dialog just so I don't have to keep resetting this. Ultimately, what you could do is choose high quality print, which is honestly probably the same thing. But as to make myself feel better and know that I've actually selected everything I know I don't want in the dialog, I made my own preset. So basically, I made a preset. It's called Film Positive. And what I did ultimately, though, I'll run you through it. So I unchecked all of the general options. Right now I'm running Adobe Acrobat 6, PDF 1.5. In compression, there is none. Make sure everything is checked off and selected to none. You don't want to compress your artwork. On marks and bleeds, I have none. And then on output, my color conversion is set to no conversion. So I'm not changing the color profile that my artwork had when I saved my 100% CMYK black and all that. I want to maintain that. So theoretically, we're doing that. I can't 100% vouch that it is not being changed when it saves to PDF, but to my understanding, it stays the same. So under advanced, you can just leave that alone. Under security, obviously, you can leave that alone. And then summary, ignore that. That's more just a summary of what you've done. So then let's save to PDF. So now we're done in Illustrator. I'm going to hide Illustrator. And if we open our PDF natively in Preview, now we're ready to print. This is how I print my films. So I print from an Epson Artisan 50. And so your printer will probably be different. Unless you have the same printer, or you have an Epson that is similar and you have the same similar print dialog. So I can't tell you how to do this part unless you have the same printer, but you can follow along and probably utilize most of the steps nonetheless. So let's go into print. And this is the last thing that I would recommend you do as well. And I made a custom preset for this as well. So you need to tell your driver how you want to output every time. And I don't want to select this individually over and over and over. So instead, I made my own preset. So first you need to select your printer. Mine is the Epson Artisan 50. And then I created a preset called Film Positive No Rip. And I'll run you through that and kind of help you understand what's going on there. So the first thing you need to do is select your paper size. Obviously, my printer does 8.5 by 11. Technically, you can do 8.5 by 14s. So select your paper size. Remember, we're making a preset here, so you need to suit your printer and your printing needs. But under Preview, we'll move to Layout. And obviously, Layout defaults to like the way it the pages print, so you don't really have to worry about layout. Let's move to color matching. Make sure color sync is not checked. Epson color controls should be checked instead. Paper handling can be left alone. And then print settings. Now we're getting into the kind of the meat and potatoes of really what makes the ink deposit the way it does onto the film once you have a good film. So in media type, I've heard a lot of people talk about how matte works really good for them, or premium presentation paper matte. I did not personally have good experience with matte. So what I use is ultra premium photo paper glossy. That's usually the recommended media type, but it seems as though it just depends on your printer, your film, the ink you use, and all that stuff. So like I said, there's a lot of variables. But in my case, with the Epson Artisan 50, ultra premium photo paper glossy is what works great for me. Now on color, I leave color on. I do not uncheck that and change it to black grayscale because I want to assure that all the cartridges in my printer are going to push as much ink out as possible, because the idea is, even though it's not black, we're still making a black color anyways. And the more ink that you're putting onto the film means the more opacity you're going to get, in theory. So I put color on and then make sure mode is selected to advanced. Now this is sort of the one feature that I can't claim like HP printers have or other even Epson printers have. But this particular setting under print quality is a lifesaver, and I really highly recommend that you use it. It's called Photo RPM. Normally photo will be selected, and sometimes even high speed will be selected by default. Uncheck all that shit. You need to uncheck high speed and make sure that photo RPM is selected. What that does is it forces your printer to print as slow as possible. It doesn't like rush through the process, and it just deposits as much ink as it possibly can based on its default driver. Okay, and then we skipped one. Color management, I let the color management mode be Epson Vivid. It defaults, I believe, to Epson Standard. Again, we're just trying to take assurances into account to do everything we possibly can to make an opaque film. So Epson Vivid would be your best guess to, put as much ink on the receptive film. And then that's it. And then you would go print. And after you print, you should have a pretty dang opaque film, and it really should look pretty good. All my films, if I hold them up to the light, literally it's black. I don't have an all black ink system. I don't have a continuous ink system. I don't use RIP software, but this works perfect for me. So I hope that lengthy description helped you guys, or lengthy tutorial if you want to call it that. Well, actually, this was for Norway Black Metal. So I hope that helps you out, man. And anybody else that happens to tune in and check this out, I hope it helps you out too. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace.